let's talk about the supplies that I'm going to be using for this project. First thing, I've got a little pencil case here, Kung Fu Panda, one of the best movies ever. So in my pencil case, I've got different pencils with levels of lead hardness. Like you can see this one says HB, and then I've actually got some darker ones like a 6B in here. I've also got some pens ready just in case. Now as far as brands go, I kind of just had like some older pencils from the 90s laying around. So this is my go-to. It's an H, so it's a super light lead that I use to draw out whatever I'm going to be using like to paint with. On the end here, this is called a kneaded eraser. So if you've never encountered one before, they kind of feel like putty or clay, but you can shape them. I like to form them to the end of my pencils that I'm using, and you can shape them to erase whatever you need to, and they're fairly gentle. Next, I'm going to talk about the canvas. So for this project, I've gone ahead and picked out a canvas that is already framed and stretched. I got this one out of a big pack that was on sale at Michael's. There's actually several different places that I'll pick up canvas depending on what kind I'm using. And in my little art to go bag over here, I've got several different kinds ready. So this is kind of what I use to like, this is like my mobile art bag. I'll take this and it makes my projects pretty easy to do on the go. Multiple ones in here actually came from Dollar Tree. And you can get like these, for example. They're $1.25 each and they're really neat. It's like a black canvas. Pretty cool. I use that for when I'm going to do something darker. Now, that said, I also love these little mini 5x7 3-packs that they have at Dollar Tree. You can get one of these for $1.25. I use them for a lot of my smaller projects and they're easy to work with, so highly recommend. All right, next up, we're going to talk about the markers I'm using. So first one's first. These are my fine tips that I'm using. I got this pack off of Amazon. I want to say it was about $24. But these have ultra fine tips and they have some replacements taped up here on the top, which they have a little bit of a learning curve. This was actually my first time using them. And you have quite an array of colors. I've got some neons, I've got some sparklies, I've got like some darker earth tones, I've got some metallics, right? And my basics. There's also a neat little chart on the back. You can get an idea of what color you're working with. So that's pretty cool. Now, that said, so these are used for detail work, and you saw the tips there. These here, I also got off of Amazon. Usually they go for about $8 to $9, depending on tax, but they're really worth it. Like, this is actually my second pack. You have to watch for the sales because sometimes they'll go up to $20 when they're not on sale, but they do go on sale fairly often. So they're pretty cool, and they're dual tips. They're also a fine tip, but they're not like super intense. So you've got two sides. You've got like the marker tip, and you also have that fine tip. For the marker, oh wow, I haven't used this one much. I'm not real big on pink. So for the marker side, it's kind of like a paintbrush, and this one's really stuck. So, oh my goodness, haven't broken them in yet. Let me try a different color. There we go. I think I've used the purple one before. All right, so here is the paintbrush tip, and it's really cool. It's got like a soft little like piece. If we look at the finer tip, it's pretty true to form. I'm able to do some decent detail work, and these markers, as far as the flow goes, they do mask other colors beneath them, so that's pretty cool. All right, so next up, this is another type of paint marker. I did get these off of Amazon. They usually go for between $10 and $15. you can see I kind of tested out the markers on the top here. And this one also gives you a little color chart. These are really good for when you're trying to have a little bit more of a translucent layer. And I'm just going to pull one of them out here. There we go. And let's take a look. These are also dual tipped. So you've got your brush tip and that fine tip. It shows the one that has like more of a blunt point, but they are actually pointed pretty well. Again, I use these when I'm going to be doing more of a translucent layer. They can potentially like cover up a layer beneath, but usually not so much. So when I'm trying to blend something, these are what I go for. Let's take a look at the tips. All right, so taking a look at the tips with the caps off, you can see the finer tip does actually have a nice point to it, and it is rather firm, which is nice. On the brush side, these are even softer than the other ones. So this is something I'm going to use when I don't have like a small detail area, because it's hard to control where the paint goes with the softer brush. All right, now for the fun part. Here's the glow-in-the-dark paint I like to use. Got this off of Amazon as well. It was on sale for $10, but I know sometimes it can go up to like $20. So you've got, they look almost like a fabric paint. I'm gonna pull one out here. They're very similar to like a fabric paint. They're not necessarily a marker per se, but it does have like a nice finer tip that you can control the flow of the paint. And I just find them really fun to paint with. I'm going to be using these for some of the lights in my painting to kind of light up the area. I love glow in the dark. It's so fun. So these are the materials I'm going to be using for this project. If there's something that you prefer, or if you're looking for something like with a different feature, you're welcome to use whatever you'd like. Let's talk about inspiration. So what I like to do, usually I might have an idea in my head of where I'd like to go. And finding a reference, I just kind of do like a little Google search or internet search, looking at images of that subject that I'm trying to do. So for this one, I found a pretty neat looking castle that I like, and I think this will be really good. If you notice, it's kind of like a little older and haggard looking here in the snow. But what I want to do is take this castle scene and put it on this canvas and make it like light it up a little bit, you know, bring some life back to it. So you're welcome to use this reference with me, or you're welcome to find your own. We don't have to use the same ones. This is just the one that I'm using. That said, another thing that I'll do, if I get to a point where there's a texture that I'm not quite seeing too well in my photo, like for example with this castle, the brickwork is a little small and it's not super high resolution. So what I might do is search for the castle bricks to kind of bring more detail into my own work. So you'll probably see a couple of those where I'm trying to figure out like, ooh, how does that work? Another thing too, if you notice, the size of this picture doesn't quite match the size of my canvas. I'm not going to be able to capture all of this, but what I can do while I'm working is kind of expand my photo to what I think is going to translate to the canvas the best. So I'm probably going to end up leaving off like this portion and just going for like this area on the canvas. Another topic I wanted to touch on before we get started is workspace. With the acrylic paint markers, it's pretty mobile. This is a medium where you can go to different places and work on different stages of development, right? So that's exciting. You'll probably notice throughout this video that I'm in different spots as I'm at different points. Right now, I wanted to work in my office. So just a little bit about what I have set up. I'm making sure that I have a fair amount of space to move freely as I'm working. I also have a nice cup of hot tea going, and of course my plants nearby. And I got a little bit of a mess over here, but all good. There is some memorabilia over here. Lindsay Sterling, love you, Lindsay. And a little candle going for ambiance. And then I've got my cool nerd wall going here. Tanya, your nerd is showing. That's cool. Of course it is. I've got plans for this back wall. Hopefully I'll be able to get that going in a future video. I'm really excited about it. It's a fun project. But here I am back at my space, and for yourself, make sure that you're in an area that makes you feel comfortable. Whatever makes you feel comfortable and inspired and ready to work on your painting, do that. Make sure you're safe, fewer interruptions, of course, and comfortable, and go from there. Let's get started.